Hello, and welcome to One Spark Stories, the podcast where innovators, creators, and some unsuspecting risk takers share about navigating highs and lows, laughter and tears, and how sometimes all it takes is one spark of inspiration to find your way to happiness. This podcast will leave you inspired to take action on your own purpose as we connect, create, and celebrate unique sparks around the globe, once again proving that it is a small world after all. I am your host, Katie Currens, and today's conversation is with Mike Simmons. Mike is the owner of Catalyst Sale, which helps founders, sales professionals, and leaders find clarity and stop second-guessing the work they do. His business processes, frameworks, tools, and methods are all the catalysts for enabling people and organizations to reduce waste, create certainty, and improve execution through clarity, focus, and design. Mike is also the host of Find My Catalyst podcast, which with over almost 300 episodes, he offers a wealth of knowledge around sales, processes, and business. Honestly, he has an episode for anything. Anytime I ask Mike a question, he shares how his own business perspective and then inevitably messages me with a perfectly relevant episode. Honestly, it's hilariously awesome every single time. Mike and I have had many incredible conversations, and I finally decided it was time to turn on the mic and share his expertise with all of you. So without further ado, let's welcome Mike Simmons of Catalyst Sale. Hello, Mike Simmons. How are you today?
I am doing amazing. Let me officially say that I'm sorry that your team did not win the Super Bowl. I know that's a horrible way to start things off, but
okay.
So I figure if we start really low, we'll just go up really high.
It's raining here. The Bengals lost. I'm going to be fine. No, thank you for that acknowledgement. You know, we're gonna continue on and do amazing things next year. I'm calling it now. We're going to be back. And it's going to be amazing. We're going to figure out this offensive line thing because it's kind of important. Little things, right?
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, Mike, I want to jump right in by getting some sparks flying. We want to learn a little bit about you in a rapid fire way. So as you answer these, it'll probably also ignite some sparks in my mind, which will carry us into the next part of our conversation, which is going to be more about the game plan and Catalyst Sale and all the work that you are doing. So, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, here we go. First, what was your favorite movie, music, show when you were growing up?
My favorite movie of all time is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Nice. That's a good one. I can't argue that. Favorite childhood toy?
I had like a table hockey game where it was the Islanders and the Flyers playing against each other, and it was right after the Islanders had won the Stanley Cup, so I could go back and play table hockey. Table hockey was it, and then that was replaced by like Nintendo and Madden and those kind of things. Table hockey.
That's fantastic, and this is going to just mesh so well with this next question. What goes on pancakes? There's
maple
a reason
syrup.
I'm asking.
Is there another option like maple syrup?
Yes, because according to our mutual buddy, Mr. Tim Jack, there is another option. There is jam. I know. Oh,
Tim's confused.
But do you know? Yes, Tim and I had this same conversation, and he made it clear that that's just not the thing for his pancakes. But the commonality between you two, what's interesting is his favorite childhood toy was also a table hockey game. So it's just, when you mentioned that, I'm like, well, what is the coinky dink in that? So naturally, I just see how this energy was flowing, and we stop right there at pancakes. It's done. So next question. You got angry on the golf course. You tossed your clubs in the water. So now you got to find something else to do. What are you going to play next?
I will not toss my clubs in the water. I won't do it. I think we have to, Colin Cowherd says this It's not how you act, it's how you react. We have to get ourselves in a position where we aren't reacting to the outside things that are around us. And I'm a big fan of kind of the Eli Manning approach is the way that I would talk about it. Never get too high, never get too low. So I would not throw my golf clubs into the water. Now, I might snap a golf club in half. And the reason, so if I snap a golf club in half, then I can go take it someplace and the shaft can get replaced. And sometimes I get angry, but I'm not gonna put into a situation where I feel like I've got to jump in the lake to go find the golf clubs. Golf clubs are too expensive to be replacing all the time.
That was my first thought. I'm like, that would be an expensive act of aggression. But I like that.
But you'd asked about next sport. The next sport probably would be hiking. I used to do some mountain biking a long time ago, but I love the golf game, and I can get a walk in there. Like Mark Twain said, it's a good walk spoiled. I can go walk in there. I can meditate. I can have fun. I can work on details. But golf is going to be with me for a while.
Yeah, I never thought I would enjoy golf because I am such a go. I am rapid movement, got to keep active. I played soccer because I could chase a ball. Like, that's just why I love doing those things. But my husband finally convinced me to go out and play. And what I completely fell in love with was the ability to just be, to exist. Yeah, there's some aggression and there's some feelings that will come about, but you are so separated from everything else. It's impressive. I love that piece. So I can understand your enjoyment.
And you can play fast. You don't have to play slow. Like and you also don't have to play 18. You can play 9. Like, there's a number of different ways to get involved in this game and enjoy the benefits of playing golf and the impact of playing golf and the amount of focus that happens. It doesn't have to be one of those things. Like, my brothers will give me a hard time, and sometimes my family, about how fast I play the game. I am just, it's like, go. If we're out on a course longer than 4 hours, that is way too long for me. It should not take more than 2 hours to play each 9. Now, I know that I've been a part of rounds where they've been 5-hour rounds, 5.5-hour rounds, where it's just painful, but yeah. It's a great game.
Yes, it is. It definitely is one that has an unexpected enjoyment. And then, unlike mini golf, where you can see somebody be at the highest of highs and immediately crash and burn as you did. I'll have to share that image of just the moment you called me out, like, you know what, you and Jody, where you're like, hey, you got in your head, it's a game, and you let the game win. And it's so, any athlete can probably speak to that. It is a mental every bit as much as physical. Do you feel that way, whether you're hiking or in business, that if you don't have the mental and physical aligned, that you're going to crash and burn, essentially?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've gone through periods of burnout where, when you look at burnout, and I would put burnout and imposter syndrome into the same kind of category, at least for me, from an experience perspective. And the burnout can turn into self-doubt, which can turn into imposter syndrome, which starts to get reinforced by the negative voices that are in your head. And when you take that out onto the golf course, what you've got to remember is the shot that you just shanked or put in the water or did whatever with has already happened. There's nothing you can do about it. It is in the past. And not to go all Rafiki and Lion King, but you've got to,
I went Elsa. It's in the past. It's in the past.
Yeah, there you go. Or let it go. Yeah. So we can let it go. We can get bumped on the head with a stick, but these things are in the past. So we just have to be comfortable with moving forward, because that's where we are. We're moving forward. So when it comes to golf, it's really hard to do that, because then you get in your head. And one of the hard parts about the game, at least from my perspective, and my athletic career ended in high school, other than I will beat myself up doing stupid things beyond that, but it really ended in high school. Is if the ball was moving, I think it would be an easier game. Like the puck's moving on the ice, the football's moving on the field, the tennis ball is moving on the tennis court. The golf ball is sitting there. So there's nothing to react to. Like, you're not just going in and letting the game come to you. You're going to the game. And when you go to the game, you get yourself so mentally broken and distraught. So when it comes into the business side of things, what I've noticed for me is if I'm not working out, if I'm not eating well, if I'm not recovering, if I'm not getting enough sleep, and some kind of triggering event happens, somebody gives me some negative feedback, somebody challenges my commitment, somebody does whatever, even if it's not true, it can be debilitating. Yeah. And then you've got, then for me, what my process is I remind myself kind of where I am. And it's, you know, going back and saying, hey, you know what? Nothing's really changed. That was an event, and I can deconstruct it and I can figure out why it happened. And now let's, okay, put it aside and move over. Let's burn the game film, so to speak.
Yeah, that is absolutely true, because those days that you're mentally exhausted, or I'll have a night where I'm up, I either am tossing and turning, or I think, hey, I'm in the groove, I'm going to stay up and knock this out. And then all of a sudden I look at the clock and I'm like, geez, tomorrow's going to be rough. And you just know that sleep, that self-awareness gets to a point where you know you're setting yourself up. And going into a day with a game plan, with that mentality that I am going into this and have to be able to control the controllables, get ready. It's mental, it's physical, it's all of those, it's nutrition, it's all of those components that play into it. So what would you say then is, and maybe it plays into that imposter syndrome side, but what would be a big misconception that people have about taking on something new when they're trying to go into a new experience or trying the game of golf? What do you suggest that they dispel in their mind?
I think the big one is that everybody else has it figured out, or somebody else has been able to figure it out faster than you, or all of those other
sound effects. Ding, 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 ding.
Like, it's just that whole idea of, hey, it's just, you know, that people aren't going through some kind of battle that you know nothing about, because they're and the extreme situation that they're dealing with is going to be slightly different, because their ability to manage that is going to be different than your ability to manage it. But we're all dealing with certain struggles. We have insecurities, we lack confidence, we have anxiety, we get triggered by other things, we will have negative self-talk, we'll put ourselves in those situations. Like, it just happens. We're human beings. So I think the thing to remind you, if you had a bumper sticker that you could kind of put up, or a note that would just pop up every once in a while, is you are not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah. Yes. And being willing to lean into that feeling and reach out to the others that seem to have it all together, or have expressed that they've been there, and say, what do I do now? Because I've found far more times than not, when you reach out to others, they're very willing to say, hey, okay, first take a breath, because I know where you are right now, and I know that's what's needed. And now let's unpack this. So it's definitely something to recognize that people have been there, and it might look different. Your journey's not mine, but you've hit walls. You've had those perceived fails. What's one that you can think right off the top of your head, maybe others don't know about, but you're like, this knocked me down?
Yeah. Well, and don't be offended if they don't respond. Because some people are busy. Some people just don't see the message. Don't create this own internal narrative about why someone didn't respond, or didn't engage, or didn't do something relative to this request for help. Now, some of that could be driven by the fact that they miss the message. They are just busy. From a prioritization perspective, they're prioritizing other things. The other part of it could actually be that they have no idea what the heck they're doing, and the story that they're telling everybody else is completely false. Yeah. And they're renting the Lamborghini that they're putting on Instagram, or whatever else it is. So, and they don't want you to know that they're a fraud. So be careful about the narrative you create around why people don't help, but don't let that get in the way of asking. Still ask, because you will find people who want to share knowledge, who want to guide, who want to coach, who want to help you go through it, because they know how painful aspects of the process were, and where some of that uncertainty was. So don't create your own story internally around why someone isn't responding.
That is so true. Those assumptions will completely destroy your mindset and your energy, your motivation. And I think that's huge. When would you say you've had to break that down in your business? Because you've had a career that's taken many pivots. Have there been moments for you where you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore? Maybe that's every day. I feel that way sometimes.
It is every day. Like I'm there right now as I'm relaunching the business and really starting to refocus and say, okay, historically I have a lot of demonstrated success in helping B2B, business to business, SaaS companies, software companies deliver solutions into the enterprise market space and help people who've not traditionally sold get better at sales, better at generating revenue, better at solving problems. Mm-hmm. Many of these things that I do inside organizations apply directly to individuals. And I'm looking at it and saying, hey, we can make a bigger impact, a broader impact by focusing more on individuals first, and then allowing that to expand out to organizations. I've had people tell me that I'm nuts to take this approach, that doesn't make sense. And, whatever, I may be nuts, but I believe it's going to work. So I have some belief and it might work, it might not. Now, so all of that, when you start to look at some of the key metrics. So one of the key metrics I'll look at is what's our bank account relative to the business and the family. And since we don't have money coming in, you start to see that money going down, and then you start to get nervous and you start to play scared, and you're no longer playing loose, and you allow all of these things to kind of play in. And what I have to do is go back to the same coaching that I apply to everybody that not everybody, people who I've had a chance to work with more recently as my process has evolved. And it's trust the process, do good things repeated over a period of time, things will work out. And if they're not working out, then you've got to reevaluate, is the process right? What's wrong? What's changed? So this is a daily thing, especially now as I'm transitioning from being a chief revenue officer inside an early stage company to getting back into relaunching both Catalyst Sale and the new brand, Find My Catalyst.
Yeah. And you said something that just sparked a thought in my mind, because I know, especially early on in business or in a new position within an organization, people tend to latch on to do so many things to prove themselves, or out of that fear that the money's not coming in. I see the account and there is an imbalance. And so now I've got to do this and this to make sure that I have revenue coming at some point. Or they think, oh, if I do all of it, then I'll figure out what will work. So what do you say when that is something that, because it happens all the time, I've myself gotten caught up in that mentality. How do you approach that?
Yeah, it's tough. And the reason it's tough is because there are a lot of things you can do, but there are only a few things that you really should do. And if you're going to get yourself into a situation where you say, yes, I can do that. If I squint, that kind of fits. Now what ends up happening is you create scope creep. And that scope creep can be a killer inside your business. You find yourself doing a lot of work that's high effort and not necessarily high impact. And what I'm looking to do with a lot of the stuff that I do, both with tools that I implement inside organizations, some of the podcasts, the videos that I put out on LinkedIn, all of this stuff, it's more about what are the things that I can do that are relatively low effort for me because I like doing them. I have experience doing them. They work. What are the things that are relatively low effort, but high impact for others, because it helps them break through a challenge they're running into. It helps accelerate their speed to impact. So and we all have these things, if I can do things that just come naturally to me, low effort, high impact on others that help improve other people's business, I can lean into those things and create something that's a bit more scalable. If I'm doing a lot of the other stuff, then I'm not able to make the kind of impact that I want. So when netting it down to how do I go through it, it's through a tool that I've created, which is a territory plan, which is about creating focus through lines of clarity. And it's inside the logo of the Catalyst Sale logo. And it's, if you look up there inside the C, it's embedded in a couple of perpendicular lines. And what we're doing there is trying to create specific lines of clarity that help you avoid boiling the ocean. So you're compartmentalizing down to a small area. And then when something comes to you that's outside of that sea, that catalyst area, you've got to be comfortable saying no.
Yeah.
Because if you say yes to it, it's going to distract you from the things that are inside your sea. So that's how I do it. Now, don't get me wrong, it is tough, especially when you need to bring money in and you've got all of those things. So you don't be unreasonable, be realistic about how the business is going and what's working and what's not working, because sometimes the problem you're trying to solve as a business is not something that anybody else cares about. And I think Bob Iger did this really well in his book, was it Ride of a Lifetime, where he said, don't be the best trombone oil salesperson. Like, that's not everybody wants trombone oil. There's it's good to niche down and do things that you're excited about, but is there really a market for it? And we have to be open to asking ourselves the direct questions: who, what, why, where, when, how, to help us determine, is there actually a market for the service, a market for the solution that we're providing? Because your friends and family will tell you there is, because they've got to deal with you. They like you. Right. They want you to feel good.
Yes.
The market will tell you something different as people start paying for those things. So for me, it's about really kind of refining back down, creating that clarity and focus. And the tool that I use and designed is the territory plan, which will make sense for a lot of salespeople, area of operations for more people who've been in the military. And when you think about it relative to operating your own business and you're not a sales professional, just think about it, creating focus through lines of clarity.
Yeah, I love that. And clarity is definitely a big piece that I'm trying to help people focus on through that intentionality. And, what is that purpose? What is the end goal? And so, being a fan of C's, we've got 3 C's at One Spark: connect, create, and celebrate. And you tapped a bit into the idea of connecting to people that can help you through those moments of uncertainty and fear of risk. Who would you say is somebody that you've connected with that has been a catalyst in your growth, that has really helped make that movement for you?
So many people. And we know a number of these folks. We were at a mastermind where some of these folks were in the same room. Lee has been a catalyst for me. Jody has been a catalyst. So Lee Cockrell, Jody, Jeff Knoll. If I go back, it's been various leaders that I've had an opportunity to work with, whether a guy by the name of Dennis Killian or a Mike McCarg, Ryan Bertrand, Chuck Schluter. These are all people who I've had an opportunity to be around. Suzanne O'Brien, when I saw her lead, it was absolutely amazing. She had a group of high-performing individuals with a lot of intensity, a lot of needs, very diverse needs and diverse levels of intensity. And she just let her team run. And I remember having the conversation with her when I was in my 20s. And I asked her, I said, how do you do this? And this was after leaving UPS, where I was in operations, and it felt like everything was kind of managing to the package and managing to the time and managing all of this other stuff. Now, what does it look like when you're managing a knowledge organization? So many of them that are out there. And those are the people that I know personally. Then you go into things like books, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is an awesome book. The Jim Collins foreword to The Effective Executive is phenomenal. I listen to it once a month. The first Wednesday of every month, I listen to it on Audible. The foreword, not the entire book.
Yeah.
So those are some catalysts for me that have helped keep me focused, help me frame thinking, help me keep moving forward.
No, I love that. And the thing that I love about that group, and many of those individuals I've been very fortunate to also have as part of my story and the connection and catalyst to make that movement, is that while we are not business partners, we're not working in the same organization, we're thought partners. And they're willing to challenge that thought. They're willing to say, my favorite question that I think more adults need to use: why? Why are you sitting on that? Why are you worried about that? what can I do to shift that mindset? And they are very willing to. So I think people need to shift. My family will always be my biggest cheerleaders. I love that. I think that they are the ones that will continue to help a lot of us move forward in those hard times, but also aligning with people that don't have emotional or financial stake in you and are willing to call you out, call your bluff of time to time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things Lee said to me in a mastermind was, after I shared something, he said, well, what does that mean? And it was, I thought it was pretty clear about what it meant. And I said, kind of repeated the same thing. And the next piece was, don't fall in love with the idea. And those are two, what does it mean? And don't fall in love with the idea are two powerful statements. One's a question and the other one is a bit of guidance. But we've got to be careful. Like we will create a scenario where we will convince ourselves that a reality is different than the reality. Why? Because we want to be sane. We don't ever want to be considered insane. Yet, if you ask people about their perception of a speaking event, what was said is clear. It's on the tape. You could listen to it. What was heard is going to be slightly different, and what was remembered is going to be slightly different. Yet our reality is still kind of the same because we're in the same place, yet we're talking about different things. So now are we all insane because we're hearing and seeing and thinking differently about that reality? So just I guess keep asking questions. If you keep asking questions, you'll get yourself in a much better position. And then work around with people and be around people who also like to ask questions. This level of curiosity will help you break through a number of challenges and get past your own stuff.
Yeah, you just said one of my other favorite C's, curiosity. I think that is something we have to lean into, because to Lee's point, to what you were just sharing about falling in love with an idea. I fell in love with the idea of a podcast years ago, but I kept thinking, well, what do people want to hear? What do I have that's interesting to share? And then I thought I knew what it would be, but the problem was it never took off because I was too worried about what that interpretation, what would that level of deemed insanity be once I release? And yet once I just let all that go and thought, what do I see valuable and what do I enjoy? Well, I love listening to stories. I love people lighting up as they talk about their passions. Well, let's do that, because now it doesn't feel like work. Now it's really fun. And I think the more we lean into that curiosity and navigate what it fuels us each day, whether you're on the fry line at a restaurant or you are in front of people engaging an audience, you can light that up. You can be part of that change and momentum, and your market, so to speak, will come to light. You might not want to work with everybody anyways, right? That's part of it too.
And given the level of darkness that we all kind of have seen in over the course of, let's say, the last 24 months, and how awesome is it to be a light? Like, how cool is it to bring some light together in that bit of darkness? So continue to be a light out there.
Yeah, thank you. I just think everybody needs to remember that we all have something. And the whole notion of the Great Resignation is something that's very daunting, and it is very real. Businesses are struggling to get people in. So when I say this, I don't want to make anybody feel, like, wow, that's rude. But the reality is there's a lot of really good employees out there. There's a lot of people ready to come in and rock your business. So maybe we start looking internally and think, what do we need to now adjust? Because our employees, our future leaders, they are changing and they do have a new perspective. Have we worked on ours? And so taking the game plan, that is going to be what helps people filter through. What would you say is the next step that you've maybe created or can help organizations create as they look at that next level of engaging their purpose, their mission?
Yeah. So when the game plan, the whole idea behind it is to really simplify goal setting and execution through clarity and focus, and provide a system to help people do that. And there are more than, you can throw a stick and hit a number of different programs out there that help people with goals And we all have goals. Let's say the goal is that they want to create a better work environment to attract more of that amazing talent that's out there. Well, if that's the goal, then the next step is, okay, what actions do we need to take? What activities, what things, doing the actual work? Because it's not enough to talk about the work. We actually have to do work. So what actions can we take? Activities can we put in place that will help get us closer to that goal? And be really clear about it. And for me, I like to keep things in groups of 3 because 3 are much easier to execute for someone like me. I don't get super distracted and start chasing all of the shiny things that are around. And a lot of organizations struggle with this. Now, if you're an organization that struggles with it, I would actually challenge you just to find one action and do that really well, demonstrate that you can do it, and then start to add in a couple of other actions. After you've identified those actions, it's really easy for us to say, oh yeah, we've done that. And then someone will go around the corner and say, did you really do it? What's the data? So what we have to do is have measurables that we can use to hold ourselves personally accountable, because it's very easy to say, hey, you know what? I'm doing a really good job with time restricted feeding because I've put the right things in my Zero app, but I've not, actually I took a snack over here and I didn't record it, or my macros does it fit your macros? I've been doing all of these things. And the reality is, if I actually put all of that into MyFitnessPal, I'd see different data. So how do I find metrics that I can use to hold myself accountable? Because we will all get distracted. And it's even better if you can find those metrics that are not ones that you have to hand check. Like I use a whiteboard and I check off certain things, and I'll share that on my Instagram page and all that kind of stuff as I focus on keeping myself focused on self there. How can I create some type of system to have data that indicates, am I actually doing the work I said I was going to do? Because if I'm doing the work that I said I was going to do, and I'm not getting closer to the goal, maybe that activity was the wrong action. So I have to feel comfortable going back to, I forget if it was Anna or Elsa who sung the song. Who sings the song?
Which one? Let It Go?
Let It Go.
Elsa.
Okay, so go back to channel my inner Elsa.
How would you not know this?
It's a time, and it's in my playlist. It's the third song in my Mind Right playlist. But it is. I got to feel comfortable letting things go.
Yeah.
If I've done the work and I'm not seeing the results, and too often we get ourselves overcommitted to continue to do the work, even if it's not the right work. So this is functionally what the game plan does, is creates a system so that you can work through your goals, your actions, the metrics that will hold you accountable. And that will lead to better clarity and focus, which ultimately gets you closer to execution. So when it comes to that engagement piece, the bringing on the right people, let's identify the actions. Let's use data to determine, are we doing the actions? And then you also use data to say, are we seeing things change relative to the number of people that are going to our website, that are applying for roles, because they want to be part of your organization, even though you're not posting for the role that they're a perfect fit for. They just want to be part of the business because you do things differently. So that is the game plan in a nutshell. The struggle that a lot of people have is being really clear about what that goal is. And then beyond that, starting to deconstruct the activities and be deliberate about the metrics from an accountability perspective. But it's simple stuff works because it works.
Yeah.
You don't need to make it overly complicated.
What is that notion, the KISS notion? Keep it simple, stupid, or stupid,
That's
simple.
it.
I always pick it, but it's so true. We overcomplicate things. When I stopped busting my tail to work out and do these in just constant, intense, and I'm like, well, I'm not losing weight. In fact, I'm actually gaining weight now. But then I deconstructed it. I started to look at the systems I had in place. And while I had absolutely incorporated healthy actions, guess what? I hadn't taken out the fact that I love nachos and chicken wings and that moderation piece, right? So sometimes when we look at that big picture of our system and we add in those intentional behaviors, it also is a matter of starting to scale back. It doesn't mean they're gone forever, but it's pulling little bits out and saying, maybe this is something that becomes a roadblock. Maybe this is a little speed bump in our game plan. So how can we pull it out, acknowledge that, and then where could we fit it back in? Maybe Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, I'm down in some nachos and I don't guilt-free, but it's acknowledging that piece of it. So I totally think what you're saying with this is you can replicate personally, professionally, in athletics. It's across the board.
All the way across. And so but you hit on the audiences that we're targeting there. It's athletes in high schools, it's parents and coaches of those athletes, it's business professionals who are looking to make some kind of transition or saying, hey, there's something more that I can be doing here. And these are the same systems that I implement inside organizations to create alignment, because that's what we're doing. We're saying, how can I align my actions, my activities, the things I do with my goals? How can I align the data with those actions to hold myself accountable? And then the last piece is the plan piece. So it's one thing to put all of this stuff on paper. Now you actually have to go out and execute against a plan. And the last component is a 30, 60, 90, short term, medium term, long term. What are the things I'm going to do in the short term? What do I expect to happen in the medium term? Where am I going in the long term? And then how do I keep watching and keep things moving along with each of those things? And know that you're a human being. You're going to get tired. You're going to see things and create a narrative that doesn't exist. And this is where that community piece, the connection that you have with others, can really help you overcome the blind spot challenge, because they will ask you questions that should shift your perspective, that will get you in a different position than you were before that question was asked. So yeah, it is, we complicate this stuff for whatever reason. And I just would attribute that to we're human beings and we're complicated creatures, and we can't accept the idea that it's that simple. Like, wait, I shouldn't watch my putter head go back when I'm putting the ball. Like I don't need to watch that. I should just keep my eye on the ball, or maybe even keep my eye on the target, because when I was playing soccer, I didn't look down at the ball to kick it. I looked at the goal. So why am I looking at the ball? I mean, like, again, all different things that you can do where you start to shift perspective.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So what would you say and is your catalyst? What is it that gets you up each day, moving forward through all the ups and downs?
Helping people and organizations do the things that they want to do better and faster, and doing that through process, through tools, through frameworks and thinking. And it literally is just helping people do things better, because a lot of people are struggling with this uncertainty, this lack of confidence, the unknown. They need the spark, that nudge to help them take the next step. And they either don't know what the next step is, they lack confidence relative to the next step, they think people are going to judge them. So how do we help people just take that next step so that they can do the things they want to do better and faster? That's what keeps me going.
I love it. I love it. And I want to celebrate that. So our third C in one spark is celebrating. And I think that you have said so many key points that resonate with a lot of people, and we could celebrate just that. But there's got to be something else about Mike Simmons that we don't yet know that we need to be celebrating. So what is a big win that we can celebrate along with you, or an awareness, anything?
I think the biggest thing that I went through last year was making the decision to go back and restart the business, restart Catalyst Sale, leave the organization that I had joined at the beginning of last year. And the thing I'm celebrating relative to that is being comfortable making a decision, putting the things in place so that the organization was left in a better place than when I started working with them. And I'm back doing the kinds of things that I like doing, where I can make a much stronger impact. So that's one thing to celebrate. And then from just an execution this year, I'm down 8 pounds, which feels good. I'm still not where I need to be. I really would like to, I'd like to get myself under 200 pounds. So it's a good weight for me. And I'm still sitting at about 220. So I've got some work to do. So we'll celebrate that in about 12 to actually, now that I'm in my late 40s, it's taking a lot longer, which is frustrating as all
right?
get out. But let's say in about 6 months, I'll be under that 200, that 200-pound mark.
There you go. And you put it out in the universe. So that's what it takes. It's been said, there's an accountability. And I definitely want to celebrate your professional movement, because as much as you've been speaking about being in alignment and making sure that organizations are aligned, if you don't feel aligned with that pull and the work that you're doing, it will disrupt every part of your being. And once you hit that alignment, it's that trifecta, the mental, physical, nutritional, magic happens. And so kudos for taking that leap and knowing that you have options, and more people need to take that awareness and replicate what you've done. So major kudos.
Thank you.
All right. So where can people find you, Mike? Where can they track you down now that they've shared or they've heard all this knowledge?
Yeah. So I know you're supposed to funnel people to one area. So if you go to catalystsale.com/game, you can see the game plan. And that's kind of the introduction into what we're doing from a business perspective. If you want to engage with me directly, never send me an email. The best place to get a hold of me is either going to be through direct messages on LinkedIn or through direct messages on Twitter. And you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm Mike Simmons on LinkedIn. It was early on LinkedIn, so I actually have my real name there. And on Twitter, I was a little bit later. So Simmons_M on Twitter. And from a branding perspective, if you go to Catalyst Sale or Find My Catalyst on either Twitter or Instagram, you'll see both of those. And Catalyst Sale is for organizations. Find My Catalyst is focused specifically on individuals. So thank you. This has been awesome.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for people to start reaching out. And if you are ever looking for a tidbit of knowledge or information, just send Mike a message on LinkedIn, and he's probably got a podcast episode for it. Trust me, he does that every time. I'll be like, hey, Mike, you got any thoughts on this? And he's like, episode 192. I don't know.
Have you ever been disappointed?
No, and I love it. That's why I mention it, because you've got so many people and so much content that is valuable. So check out that podcast. Look for Mike on LinkedIn and Twitter, and then definitely look into the game plan. So thank you so much, Mike. We look forward to checking back in. I'm going to make a note that we're going to follow up and see how this weight loss is going, how this physical well-being is holding up. All right. Thank you. I had a feeling that Mike would really get my wheels turning in this conversation, but by the end, I could not stop thinking really how much of our own ideas and our own passions get held back because of that burnout, because we don't have clarity, we are not staying focused, or we get stuck with the execution of a plan. And so I appreciate Mike's time talking through the game plan and really helping acknowledge that burnout, exhaustion, all of those ways that we just wear ourselves down is what leads into self-doubt. That's what leads into that feeling of imposter syndrome. And that's what creates those loud, noisy voices in our head that say, you can't, you shouldn't, I don't know about this. But remember that until you try, you do not know. I look back and think about all the years I've been wanting to do a podcast, or all the years I've been wanting to write. And I kept putting it off thinking, I don't know, nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. But I finally thought, forget it. I want to do it because it means something to me. I know my purpose and I know my bigger plan. And I did. And quite honestly, most weeks I forget that there's even stats to look at to see if people are downloading. But it's exciting and encouraging to hear conversations and have conversations with you all to say, wow, that really did resonate with you. So please let me know what it is within this conversation with Mike that really hit home to you. And think about, what is that big block that you've been using? Is it financial security? Is it emotional security? Is it a known chaos and so you figure, you know what, I'll just deal with it because I know what to expect? But just remember, you do have an opportunity for more. And until you take that first step, you won't realize how beautiful it is on the other side. Stay well, stay curious, and I'll see you real soon.
Fun fact, the side of a hammer is called the cheek.
Later, Tater.